Oh dear! Someone pulled the plug on Portman Road in stoppage time. That was a stunner, wasn't it? Wasn't expecting that. It looked like, for all the world, not vintage Ipswich, but it looked like they were going to get the win. And then silence. Goodness.
Yeah, I turned to you as we were heading into stoppage time, saying Ipswich had played better against Lincoln, they'd played better against Cheltenham, had lost and drawn those two games respectively, and having not played anywhere near as well as those two games, looked like that they were going to kind of grind out a 1-0 win here tonight. Another early Wolverton goal, just like against Cheltenham, from a set piece, 2 minutes in this time, so even earlier. So the stage was set. You've done the hard part. You've got the early breakthrough. You've prevented the opposition having something to sort of defend for their lives with. And as you say, without Ipswich being anywhere near their best, the longer the second half went on, yes, Fleetwood had a decent amount of the ball, but they didn't have a huge amount of chances until we got to those latter stages, did they?
No, Ipswich led this game for more than 90 minutes. To lead a game for more than 90 minutes and not win it, that doesn't happen very often. And the equaliser, when it came, Kieran McKenna sat in this seat here and said much the same. It was a fortunate equaliser, a flick off Cameron Burge's head up, then off the woodwork and into net. But the ground just silenced, stunned. Ipswich have had their frustrations at home this season, but they've not quite had them in this manner. Not the stunner, not the knockout blow. And in any game where you have been able to take the ball to corners, and Ipswich did that at times, they were working the ball towards the corner, trying to see it out. You think at that point this is okay now. They're in control. They're working the clock. They're going to get this done. And still stunned by it now. Really, just the manner of that equaliser and the Fleetwood players running off in all different directions, trying to work out who'd even scored it. Josh Earl sent off for some ridiculous. If you get a chance to, I'm not sure everyone will have seen exactly what he did, but some of the way he celebrated that goal.
I've not seen it, but you've described it to me. Some choice hand gestures
everywhere.
To various parts of the ground.
Everywhere. They were flying around. That says what it meant to Fleetwood. But for Ipswich, it's more points dropped at home and a chance missed to go back to the top of the table. Yeah. And that's what Tam will be reflecting on.
Yeah, they're heading top. Plymouth have lost, seen their 100% home record end tonight. They've lost at home to Port Vale. And Ipswich were going top of the table. There was chance. I think Ipswich waited until the 90th minute and the fans started chanting about going top of the table. Ended up being a bit premature. As it is, if Sheffield Wednesday could beat Derby tomorrow, Ipswich could drop out of the top two. So that feels like a bit of a psychological blow, not being able to go top tonight. The nature of the late equaliser is hard to take, but the performance was a bit flat tonight. We've talked a lot about Ipswich have been so consistent this season. It was really hard to pick out a poor performance from any of their games, really, but I thought the Papa John's Trophy game against Portsmouth was well below par, and tonight kind of was in that category as well. And you just hope that this isn't a sign of a stretched squad starting to just dip a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are signs of that in this game anyway. 15 minutes, it was all looking fine, wasn't it? 15 minutes in which they'd taken the lead on 2 minutes, were making chances. They were working off Freddie Ladapo a little bit in that early period of the game, but it just dried up. The connections dried up, both through the middle of the pitch. That left Chaplin moving wide to try and get the ball. The connections down the flanks weren't always there. Kyle Edwards started quite well, I thought, on the front foot. That dried up. Everything dried up, and from there it was really hard to get it back.
Really sloppy in possession, uncharacteristically. It was signs of that towards the end of the first half, when sort of balls were just drifting over and out of play, and just they weren't connecting for whatever reason today. And Fleetwood, there was a couple of warning signs with some direct balls in behind, and Walton had to make a brave save at feet, and you just felt like they were just starting to get a foothold and gain some confidence, and that continued into the second half, really. And I think I think Fleetwood had more possession than Ipswich in the second half, 100 or so more passes than Ipswich in the second half. That's very unlike this Ipswich Town side. But all that said, they'd been kept reasonably at arm's length. They hadn't had loads of chances, and that's why McKenna was saying, look, we're never going to play brilliant every game. We're going to have days where we're off it, and that's when you just have to dig in and see the result out. And it looked, for all the world, like it was going to be the case until, as you say, a 25, 30-yard speculative shot from range flicks off of Cameron Burgess's head and loops in.
There'd been one big warning shot before that, and that was Joe Garner, who kind of walked onto the pitch, walked into Ipswich's penalty area, and nobody
They brought him on at a corner, didn't they?
Yeah.
So not often you see people bring players on at an attacking corner, but they brought on Joe Garner, and Ipswich, as you say, just left him completely unmarked, and he sees a header cleared off the line quite acrobatically by Leif Davis. So that was that first little warning sign. You're right, that was around 86, 87 minutes, wasn't it?
And that's when you start to worry a little bit about. Actually, before that point, wasn't overly concerned about it. They had one kind of move into the box, hadn't they? Which ultimately was it Dan Batty who slipped? Yeah, slipped inside the box. Until that point, wasn't worried about it. I thought we were going to be talking about a poor performance from Ipswich, not meeting high standards. But like you said earlier, getting the job done that they didn't do against Cheltenham and Lincoln.
Fine margins, isn't it? We'd be sitting here talking about sign of a good side is winning when you're not playing well, and they've ground it out and they've gone to the top of the table, and the whole mood would have been different. Instead, we're talking about 11 points dropped at home, another frustrating day in the same mould as Lincoln and Cheltenham, and that's what this league is like, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Is that the thing that kind of not necessarily worried me, but just highlighted some things to me today was that there wasn't the options to change it from the bench. So the game needed a bit of life, and there wasn't necessarily the life on the bench to do that. The options that were once there are now not there. We know why that is. The injuries are biting. A big strength has been taken away from Town, and not being able to inject a proper injection into that's what they're doing in August and September, wasn't it? A 5-man injection from the bench that would change games and change the course of games. Couldn't do that tonight, which meant they had to work the grind, which sometimes you're going to win at that, sometimes you're going to lose at it, and tonight didn't work out so well for Town.
Peterborough at home next weekend, so another game here at Portman Road that should be hopefully play into Ipswich's hands a bit more, and an open game of football. They seem to be more suited to playing those higher teams here at Portman Road, so hopefully that's the case next weekend. And this season, I guess the good thing is they've nipped bad results in the bud quite quickly, so hopefully that can be the case next weekend.